So it sounds like there's a pretty good chance that the NHL is moving into Houston. And honestly, I don't like it. But what are you going to do? They've been talking about expansion for years. I kind of like the idea of an expansion team moving into Canada.
You didn't say the magic word.
Please! God damn it! Specifically a team closer to me, but they've been talking about Houston. They've been talking about Atlanta again. Utah got their team. They got them from Phoenix. But now it feels like Houston isn't just a maybe someday type thing. It sounds like it's happening, man. The NHL is currently working with the Friedkin family and its Pursuit Sports Group on bringing a 33rd franchise to Texas. Austin was also in the conversation, but NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly has now essentially told us that the league prefers Houston. The league is hoping to have a definitive agreement as early as December, with the potential for the new franchise to begin play in the 2029-2030 season. These things, they don't come cheap. This is like a $3.5 billion investment, so definitely not pocket change. So I guess, yeah, Houston, it's going to be an NHL team. But the question I want to answer today is, what the heck are they going to name this team? Let's talk about it.
Look good, guys, or no?
No, you always look good, you know that.
Yeah, thanks.
This is fun to me. I have a marketing background, and every time a new team gets added to the NHL, every time that a jersey changes, every time that kind of a weird choice in marketing is made in the NHL, my mind goes crazy thinking about what happened in the boardroom for something like this to happen. Before we get into it, thank you so much for your continued support. Video yesterday didn't do too hot, but it's because this is like a Montreal Canadiens centric channel. Well, no, you know, it touched on a Montreal-based team. Anyway, if you didn't watch the video, I encourage you to go check it out. I was smart with this video, though. There is a Montreal Canadiens connection, and I included it in the thumbnail. Something I've been noticing, like 70% of you who watch these videos, you're not subscribed. Why not hit that subscribe button? I'm going to bring content like this all for the rest of summer anyway. Everyone else hit the like button because I don't yet. It does something, I think. So what would the obvious answer be for a Houston-based NHL team? Well, if you know anything about Houston hockey, you know the name the Houston Aeros. The Aeros played in the WHA from 1972 to 1978, and they were good. They were like one of the better teams in the WHA. They won the championship twice, and one of their claims to fame, obviously, is that Gordie Howe was on the team with his two sons. Gordie came out of retirement to play with Mark and Marty. So you had one of the greatest hockey players of all time playing in Houston with his two sons. The team was winning championships. It's an incredible piece of hockey history, and it drew crowds. But of course, the WHA folded, and the Aeros name was not being used until 1994, when another professional team that played in the IHL and then later the AHL used the name. They eventually left Houston, however, in 2013. So if you're sitting here thinking, why wouldn't they just call themselves the Aeros? It's probably one of the stronger names, honestly. So it's a pretty good contender, but I don't think it's a for sure thing. Someone might know this better than I, but I believe that the Houston Aeros name is being used, but it's being used in minor hockey. So I don't know if there's like sketchy trademarking issues there, but that's okay because there's another name that has history and a connection to the Montreal Canadiens. Before the Aeros, there were the Houston Apollos. The Apollos played in the Central Hockey League beginning in 1965. And from 65 to 69, they were the farm team for the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah, Montreal had a farm team in Houston. Yeah, the Apollos were a legitimate farm team for the Montreal Canadiens. They were their development system. Players came from Houston on their way to Montreal. But it might come to no surprise to you that the Canadiens decided this wasn't working out particularly well, having players travel from Houston to Montreal in the 60s. Probably pretty expensive. What was the culture like in Houston as a minor league team? Probably not the best. Attendance probably wasn't that great. And apparently also the availability of the Sam Houston Coliseum was an issue. So in 1969, the Canadiens did something that seems completely bizarre by today's standards. They moved the team to Montreal, Houston to Montreal. They renamed them the Montreal Voyageurs. So the Voyageurs became Montreal's American Hockey League affiliate, and suddenly the Canadiens had their farm team basically in their backyard. And there's a really cool piece of Habs history built into this. Guy Lapointe played for the Houston Apollos in 1968 to 69. Then the franchise moved to Montreal and Lapointe played for the Voyageurs. So when we're talking about the Houston Apollos, we're talking about a team that was literally part of the Canadiens pipeline in the NHL, part of the Canadiens history. And I actually think that the Apollos is a pretty damn good candidate for a future NHL team in Houston. It's got Houston history, hockey history. It's connected to Montreal. Obviously, Apollo has a pretty enormous connection to Houston. NASA's Johnson Space Center has been at the heart of America's human spaceflight program since the 60s. So you could resurrect the Apollos and then build the identity, the theming, the branding around space. But the thing with me is, with my marketing background, I like associating a team name to like a being. So I have a couple of other names that I want to run past you. All right, so hear me out. Apparently, there's a gargoyle legend at NASA's Johnson Space Center. And according to the story, an engineer named Frank Shaw reported seeing a hunched, demonic-looking gargoyle figure around the Johnson Space Center parking lot area in the 1980s. And apparently he wasn't the only person who have claimed to have seen this. I love naming a sports team after a mythical creature, a cryptid. I was really excited for the Seattle Kraken, but then when I saw their logo, I mean, I wasn't super impressed. I do like their jerseys, but the logo, it's missing something. But a gargoyle, that's quite cool. The Houston Gargoyles. Tell me that doesn't sound like a hockey team name. Well, it does sound like a hockey team because there is a hockey team named the Gargoyles, which could be a problem. It's owned by it's partly owned by the guys at Spitting Chicklets. But you could do so many things with the logo, and the mascot would just go off. It would be incredible. So maybe you didn't like that one. How's about this one? The Houston Chupacabra. This one's pretty obvious. The Chupacabra is one of the most famous cryptids associated with Texas and the American Southwest. And I like it for all the same reasons. Cool cryptid. It's an actual being that you could put into a logo. Terrifying mascot, some sort of an abomination. And the goal song could be Chupacabra. I would absolutely watch a game between the Canadiens and the Chupacabra. Okay, those were probably my stronger entries, but let's give this one a chance. The Houston Toads. This one sounds like a joke until you actually look into it, because the Houston toad, it's a real thing. It's endemic to Texas. It's also endangered. In fact, the species was named after Houston and was historically found in the Houston area, although development and drought eventually wiped it out from the city itself. So the Houston Toads, I think you could do a pretty cool logo with it. You know, the thing is, people will say, oh, a toad. That doesn't sound like a menacing, strong creature, you know, an apex predator. Well, the Pittsburgh Penguins, are you scared of a penguin? It's like that with every team that enters this league. At first, you're like, oh, that's a corny name, the Golden Knights. But after they're in the league for a few years, you're like, okay, well, yeah, they fit now. How about the Houston Great-Tailed Grackles? Okay, maybe this one doesn't work. But I like the idea of like a bird, another bird team name. Maybe the Houston Railway Men? Got to get a little bit historical with this one, get in that historical mind space. In August 1853, the Buffalo, Bayou, Brazos, and Colorado Railway opened its first section of track between Harrisburg and Stafford's Point. Whew, that was a mouthful. So apparently this was a pretty big deal. It was the first operating railroad in Texas, and it helped establish Houston's importance as an inland transportation and trade hub. So the Houston Railway Men, maybe? I like it more than like the Houston Outlaws. Outlaws is just, it's so overplayed. I don't know. There's something there because it's kind of like a cool industrial feeling. Black, steel, copper, locomotive roaring down the ice. There's something there. There's a theme. There's a brand there. And it kind of moves them away from the space theme because they have other sports organizations that have claimed that. So I don't mind it. Ultimately, I think that if it does go through, the Aeros is probably really high up there. I really like Apollos as well. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Imagine I actually guessed correctly and it was not the Aeros. Ladies and gentlemen, your next NHL expansion team, the Houston Grackles. But yeah, no, the Houston Apollo is probably my dark horse, but it's probably going to be the Aeros, right? What do you think they should be called? Let me know down in the comments, but that's going to do it for me. This was another fun video, a cool piece of hockey history mentioned for the Montreal Canadiens. But yeah, I'm not super thrilled that the NHL is adding another team. It's not, I don't think that the real issue is that it's going to water down the crop. I just think already at 32 teams, things feel bloated. There's a lot of teams that can't seem to get it together, you know, and the fan bases, they're struggling. So to add another team in there and drive interest away from maybe struggling teams, it gets on my nerves a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night. You guys know what to do. Like the video, helps me out probably with something. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I would love to have you. And as always, I will see you down in the comments.
Gleb.